Are you interested in a brand new Sony TV but not quite sure where to start? Stick around as we'll tell you everything you need to know. Welcome to our Sony 2021 lineup video. Hi everyone, it's Jonathan from Smart Home Sounds here, and if this is the first time we're meeting, welcome to our channel. We're a home audio visual retailer based in the UK, and we make videos like this so you can be better informed about your next audio or TV purchase. So today's video is going to be really helpful for you if you're perhaps considering a new Sony TV, but maybe you're not quite sure where to start. So as we explained in last year's Sony TV buying guide, as a retailer, our intention really is to match up the right TV for your needs rather than sell you just the most expensive TV where you might not be utilising the extra features that you get from that TV and ultimately overspending. So what we'll aim to do is give you an understanding of what you will gain by upgrading to the next model above, or what you will lose if you go for the model below. And ultimately which TV model might be the best fit for you. We'll of course keep technical jargon to an absolute minimum, as we understand it can be quite easy to get a bit lost in it all. Remember, most of the TVs we mention are listed on our website if this helps you make your mind up, and there's usually quite a few promotions or offers running depending on the model that you buy, so it's always worth having a quick look. As always, if you want more personal advice, then do get in touch and we can help you out, and make sure you check out our more in-depth reviews on the 2021 models over on our channel. And the QR code to our Sony TV section will be somewhere around here. So without further ado, I'm ready to get into it if you are, so let's crack on. Just a quick disclaimer, if there is a model or models that you might be interested in, they'll all be listed as timestamps below so that you can skip forward to those models if you don't want to watch the entire comparison. Now, it's probably a good idea to start off by demystifying some of these Sony model names, as they're not actually as complicated as they look. So if we take the example of the Sony Bravia XR A9, the XR at the front refers to Sony's brand new XR processor in selected TVs. This may also be KD if you're looking at one of the Sony TVs that are lower down in the lineup. The 55 obviously refers to the screen size in inches of this particular model. The A refers to the model class, so A stands for OLED, X for LED. The 80 is the particular model within that class, and then J is the year that this model was released, so J is 2021, and the U is, well, not that important at all. So if we take a look at the overall lineup, it starts at the bottom, the W800, and works its way up through LED models, full array LED models, and then up into OLED, where the A90J is the flagship OLED TV this year. Right at the top, you've then got the Z9J, which is Sony's 8K full array LED option. Next up then, we have the X80J and the X81J. Now, I do need to point out that we've not actually chosen to stock these because Sony don't give you their 5-year warranty on these ones. Instead, you only get their 1-year warranty, and I'd say that most people keep their TV much longer than that. But there are significant improvements to these TVs from the W800 in almost every way, mainly because these are the first step into 4K HDR LED panels with an upgraded processor from the W800, being the X1 processor, which is carried forward from 2020. Now, you may have heard us speak about the importance of the processor in previous videos, and I will just highlight it again, as it is responsible for all manner of things from blur-free motion to color richness and those sorts of things. 4K HDR is a huge benefit with over 8 million pixels across the whole screen, which adds more detail and layering to the image, and HDR gives you a higher contrast ratio. Both models benefit from Sony's new Triluminos Pro feature, which makes the reds, the greens, and the blues pop off the screen much more. You've also got upgraded motion flow, so the colours won't bleed as much as the action moves across the screen, although it's still not the top level of motion flow, as we are quite low down in the range still. These TVs also support the new Google TV interface, which we've tested in detail, and are on the whole very happy with how it works, and it's a massive improvement on Android TV. Then you've also got an upgraded sound system built in, and you can get Dolby Atmos, which is the latest form of audio codec, and means that you can watch the latest content in their best version of audio quality if that content supports it. Really, the only differences between the X80J and the X81J are that you get a slightly enhanced form of motion flow on the X81, Motion Flow XR 400 to 480 Hz versus Motion Flow XR 200 to 240 Hz. So for most of you, if you're still looking at a budget TV but want 4K HDR, either of these TVs would be sufficient. In terms of pricing then, the X80J starts at £749 for the 43-inch, up to £1,099 for the 65-inch, with only slight variations to these prices on the X81J. So moving up to the X85J then, so this one is nice and straightforward. This one still has Sony's 1-year warranty with it, but this is the first TV in the lineup to benefit from HDMI 2.1. So for you gamers, this could be worth a look if you're on a tight budget. All other TVs higher up get the HDMI 2.1, so I won't need to mention that again. Now the X85J is available in a 43-inch size for $849, up to an 85-inch panel for $2,999. It also has another step up again in motion flow to motion flow XR 800 to 960 Hz, so even better for fast-paced action sequences or sports matches. And then one final difference that you get with the X85J is the addition of an HDMI eARC port rather than just a standard ARC port. So if you're using maybe a soundbar that utilizes eARC, this is a great little addition. Now, it's worth noting that if you move up to the X89J, which is Sony's top 4K LED model, before stepping into Bravia XR, you now benefit from Sony's 5-year warranty, which for a lot of people could actually be the difference between going for one TV over another. The X89J is the replacement to last year's XH81 model, and that's available in sizes from 43-inch, starting at $899, all the way up to 75-inch for £2,000. So there's a lot of flexibility to cater for room sizes with this model. The motion flow feature once again improves on this model further than the X85J, up to motion flow XR 1000 to 1200 Hz. And I would tend to say that motion flow is always going to be a benefit when watching sport or high action movies, so the higher those numbers, the better it will be at handling those types of visuals. The X89J also has a more premium standard than the X85J, so again another thing worth noting. Now, where you really jump up in performance is from the models above the X89J, as you are now into full array LED territory. The difference between standard 4K LED and 4K full array LED is that the pixels are illuminated across the whole area of the screen in full array, rather than the pixels being illuminated using a guide from the edges in normal LED TVs. As a result, the local dimming is more targeted, so you tend to find the images are darker, deeper and richer, adding to the sense of realism from the TV. And that is instantly noticeable if you put the X89J up against the entry-level full-array LED TV, the X90J. The X90J replaces last year's XH85, XH90 and XH91 models, starting at a 50-inch size for £1,249, up to 75-inch for £2,599. So what do you get in the X90J that you don't get in the X89J? Well, aside from being full array LED rather than LED, which is a huge step up by itself, the number one benefit is the upgraded processor. Now, the X90J benefits from Sony's new for 2021 Bravia XR processor, which Sony have designed from the ground up and have stated it's one of their biggest changes in 10 years. The Bravia XR processor significantly improves things like motion, color hues and contrast. And how does it do this? Well, Sony have introduced something called cognitive intelligence to these TVs. And yes, I know what you're thinking, Jonathan, what on earth are you talking about? Cognitive intelligence? This isn't a science lesson. But I do feel it's worth mentioning because Sony have put a huge amount of effort into how realistic the picture is and how realistic the picture moves. The whole idea is that the cognitive processor uses cognitive intelligence to replicate how we see and hear things in real life. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you're watching a scene walking through a forest, your eyes would focus on the path ahead. Or if you saw a close-up of an animal's face, you'd focus on the eyes, and it just adds extra subtle details to those places to replicate how you would process the real world. Thanks to the enhancements in the processor, it can now localize its efforts to particular places on the screen, which works really well. Now, there's quite a few additions on the X90J, and the jargon ups the ante a bit, so let's try and break this down a little bit. So first of all, contrast booster is something that we saw on last year's models, but has now been upgraded to XR Contrast Booster Pro because of the extra capabilities of that processor. Basically, it makes bright areas even more bright and dark areas even darker, resulting in scenes looking more real with extra depth and detail. Another feature that I particularly love from these models up is the XR upscaling, which takes your standard definition content and then upscales it to 4K so that you can watch all of your favourite old shows in higher definition. Of course, don't expect miracles here, as a TV can only optimise what it's got, not at the source, but it's nice to know that this is possible. The last sort of notable feature that you benefit from in the X90J that directly affects the picture is something called XR Motion Clarity, and that's an evolution of motion flow on the TV sets lower down in the range. Now this is sort of self-explanatory, but motion clarity boosts the brightness and smooths everything out when it's needed, such as in high action sequences, again a great feature for movie buffs. Smoothness of motion is a big step up in the X90J from the X89J. The X90J also benefits from black frame insertion, which takes motion one step further without a drop in brightness. Now the last main advantage that you get with the X90J is the sound quality. So this might apply to you, or it might not if you're planning to use a soundbar or home cinema system anyway. But if you're someone coming from using TV speakers and you plan to continue doing so, I think you'll be blown away by these improvements. Now the X90J has something called acoustic multi-audio, which features speakers built in at multiple positions behind the TV screen, and the TV will process at what area of the screen the sound is coming from and then activate that speaker so the sound can travel where the action is. Now, as I said in previous videos, this won't replace a soundbar or home cinema system, but maximizes the TV's sound potential if you decide not to use a separate system. You also get 3D surround upscaling, which will take the audio track from your content and then reprocess that into multi-dimensional surround sound. The speakers from within the TV will throw the sound horizontally and vertically to create a wide soundstage. Now this will work with both Atmos and non-Atmos content, so again another benefit if you're not planning on using a soundbar. Oh, I almost forgot actually, you do also get Bravia Core from the X90J upwards, which is Sony's own movie streaming service. Now I did find myself using this more than I thought, and it's got loads of Sony exclusive movies and features exclusive footage like backstage interviews, deleted scenes and lots more. You can really get lost in there and spend a lot of time watching all sorts of things. You do also get 5 credits, which is the equivalent of 5 movies to spend within 12 months on the X90J, the X95J and the A80J, and then 10 credits to spend on all A90J models and above. Now just a quick disclaimer, we have actually filmed an X90J review video on our YouTube channel, which might be worth a look if you want to find out even more about it. There is one further model in the full array LED category, being the flagship full array model, which is the X95J, and this replaces last year's XH95 model. Now if you're looking for a 55-inch, you'll need to stick at the X90J, as the X95J is only available in a 65-inch, 75-inch and 85-inch size. Price-wise, at the time of filming this video, the price of the 65-inch has not yet been released, but the 75-inch has been confirmed at $3,499 and the 85-inch size at $4,499. So what do you get extra in the X95J? Well, there is a couple of things. Performance-wise, you get a higher level of XR contrast booster times 10, which offers more control of the backlight and also helps make the overall picture a lot brighter. Now, there is definitely a noticeable difference when you have the X90J and the X95J side by side. You then also have something called X wide angle viewing technology on the X95J, which is actually only available on this model and their top of the range 8K TV, the Z9J. It's actually quite a useful feature if your seating position is more than 30 degrees off axis from the TV, as the TV will then retain the colour and contrast from that angle. If your seating position is less than 30 degrees off axis, I wouldn't say you absolutely need this feature. The sound is also enhanced as you get an extra subwoofer, so you'll get deeper bass out of the TV on its own. And then you've also got a slightly different stand where the feet are positioned at either end, which I do actually like. I think that's a great design feature this year. The bezel is also even more seamless, just adding to that premium aesthetic. Now, as there is a built-in mic on the X95J, you can take advantage of hands-free voice search, so the TV can actually perform like a Google smart speaker, which is quite cool. And then finally, you've got that backlit voice remote control, which I love. So in summary, the X95J is an upgraded version of the X90J with enhanced design features, as well as extra wide angle and that extra subwoofer. I would say if you're using a soundbar and your seating position is pretty much straight on from the TV, the upgrade from the X90J is probably not worth it for you. But I will leave that decision down to you, as everyone is going to have a different view on that. Now, here's the next biggest step up from the X95J to the A80J. So the letters have changed at the front because the A80J is now into OLED territory, and it's Sony's most affordable OLED model for 2021, replacing last year's award-winning and very popular A8 model. It's available in a 55-inch, 65-inch and 77-inch size, starting at £1,899 up to £4,199. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the general differences between OLED and full array LED, as we have actually done a dedicated video on this, which I'll put a link to in the description below. In a nutshell, OLED means that the pixels behind the screen can turn themselves off completely, resulting in a much higher color variant. So the blacks will appear as true black, and then the same for white. If you're after the best picture, OLED really is the place to be. Not to say that the models lower down in the range aren't still stunning, but once you see the difference in OLED, I did actually find it's quite hard to go back, and those who own an OLED will hopefully know what I mean by that. You'll also notice quite a difference in build quality, as you now get a lovely aluminium layer stand which can be fixed in 3 different ways, where the legs can be at the edge of the TV, the center of the TV, or jacked up to accommodate a soundbar. It's also got a thinner bezel, and it won't protrude as much from the wall if you're wall mounting it. I do think these extra design features are needed in OLED TVs, considering how much you would be spending. One small gripe I have is that you're only supplied with this standard remote in the A80J, which I do think is a bit harsh, but you can purchase that premium backlit remote if you really want it separately. The sound also steps up in the A80J with acoustic surface audio, as the screen actually becomes the speaker, with actuators behind the screen, and they vibrate to create the sound. It must be said that the difference between the X95J and the A80J sound is drastic, so if you're maybe fixed on the idea that you won't be using a soundbar, I would say that the sound quality is improved by as much as 50% on the A80J, as well as it being an OLED, so better visuals to match. Now, I think the A80J is going to be a very popular Sony TV this year, and as such, we have filmed a separate A80J review, which again, I'll pop a link to in the description below. If you're looking for a more premium OLED option, the A90J is the model to look to, as that is Sony's top-of-the-range flagship OLED model, and that's supplied in a 55-inch, 65-inch and an even larger 83-inch option. Price-wise, you're looking at $2,699 for the smallest size, and up to, wait for it, $6,999 for the 83-inch, though I do think most of you are going to be considering the 55-inch or the 65-inch at the most. Although I will point out that we've come a long way from LG's 77-inch A1, launched back in 2017 for £20,000. Now, don't get me wrong, I would love to drop £7,000 on a TV and it would make one hell of a cinema setup, but I am going to have to make quite a few more videos before I get anywhere near that. Now, being the flagship OLED this year, the A90J replaces the highly popular AG9 model from last year. The design takes things up another notch, and it's even slimmer than the A80J and last year's model. I'm really not quite sure how much slimmer TVs can get than this. So picture-wise, contrast is even higher thanks to XR OLED Contrast Pro. This will also make things a bit brighter as well, so if a lot of your viewing is going to be daytime, you will really benefit from the A90J over the A80J. Another great feature of the A90J is that it can optimize its color and brightness depending on the environment it's in, so you don't need to fiddle with the settings when you're watching in different brightness levels. In the A90J, you're also provided with that premium backlit remote control as standard. Yay! Now, there is quite a notable difference just how much the A90J can show more color hues and add that extra detail over the A80J. But I would say that if you are considering an OLED and you've never owned an OLED before, I think you'll be really impressed with what the A80J, the one lower down, can do for you. You might not need to pay that extra £1,000 for the A90J unless you're coming from an OLED and then want to upgrade performance even more. Now, we have done a full in-depth review of the A90J as well, if you want to take a closer look at that one. There is actually another OLED option which needs to be highlighted, and that is the A9 model. So this is actually a 2020 model which has been carried on to 2021, and it's available in a screen size of 48 inches only. Now, it sits in between the A80J and the A90J, but being last year's model, it doesn't offer the brand new Bravia XR processor. For around £1,400 is a decent OLED option for those looking for a TV that's under 50-inch and OLED. Now, there's one final TV in the Sony 2021 lineup, which is their flagship 8K model, which replaces the ZH8 from 2020, which is now named as the Z9J. I'm not going to go into too much detail as it's only available in a 75-inch or 85-inch size with big price tags to match. We're looking at £8,000 for the 85-inch. With these 8K TVs, you've got 4 times the number of pixels as 4K, roughly 33 million versus 8 million, resulting in much more detail and color accuracy. But guys, honestly, you're talking silly money for these TVs at the moment, and there really isn't that much 8K content available right now. I do believe that prices of 8K TVs will come down as more and more 8K content is released, as with anything. I will highlight that this model does offer upscaling, so it will take your 4K content and then upscale that to make it look closer to 8K. So if you were to take the same size 4K and 8K TVs and then put them side by side, it will look better on the 8K model, that's for sure. The Z9J is also full array LED rather than OLED, just to make you aware. I think the only cases where this TV will feature is in high-end cinemas, but for most residential installs who are in pursuit of the best picture without a very large budget, I think a Sony OLED would be the way to go this year, as there have been lots of worthwhile upgrades. But if you guys do want a review of their 8K flagship model this year, do let us know in the comments and we'll see what we can do. So if you've made it this far, I hope I haven't bored you or confused you with jargon. When you break it all down, it's not actually as confusing as you might think. But if you do want to have a quick chat about which TV might suit you, do feel free to reach out to us directly by calling us, emailing us, or talking to us on live chat. We're a friendly, approachable bunch. Remember, links to all of these TVs will be in the description below, where you do have the option to purchase one from us, complete with Sony's 5-year warranty, amongst any other promos that might be live at that time. If this video has helped, don't forget to drop me a like and consider subscribing if you would find content like this useful in the future. Thanks as always for watching, and see you guys next time.